Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, today we're going to be back at the keyboard, writing code, getting ready for it to be just the right time to compile. Today we're taking a look at Compile Main 2, which is a standalone expansion, meaning it could be you could play it on its own, or it can be added to the original Compile Main 1 game that was super popular last year. It was my 2-player game of the year. Well, at Gen Con they had a few copies of the second set here. So let me show you how I'm going to show you the different cards that are in this, my favorite ones, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, here are the 12 new protocols in Compile Main 2. We have Smoke, Time, War, Peace, Mirror, Luck, Ice, Fear, Clarity, Chaos, Corruption, and Courage. Now in this, I'm not going to show you how to play the game because the rule set is the same as Compile Main 1, which I've already reviewed. You can check that out to see how to play the game. I'm just going to show you sort of some flair of some of the cards, some of my favorite cards to show you what they do. Let's start with Luck 4. Now the Luck protocol is one of the more crazier ones here, but this allows you to discard the top card of your deck, and then you delete a covered or uncovered card that shares the value with that discarded card. Now this can be a really powerful card, because even if your opponent has protected their 5 by covering it, flipping over your top deck can still send that one to the trash. However, if you discarded a 4 value card, and Luck 4 is the only card in your field, it deletes itself. So that's where the Luck plays in. The Luck deck is kind of strange. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. It's good to put that deck into players' hands that haven't played a lot, because sometimes they can overcome certain things from the other player. Now, Time 0 allows you to play a card from your trash and then shuffle your trash back in your deck. So this essentially like acts as an extension of your hand, making the trash basically be like an extension of your hand. But another way that you could get, and the designer wrote about this a little bit, some more value out of this card is by avoiding the trash shuffling into your deck altogether. So if you played a card that covers this Time 0, the shuffle never happens. So you play this one card from your trash, that card covers this Time 0 card, and then you never shuffle your trash into your deck. So that's kind of like a little loophole. I wouldn't have normally have thought that that could have been done, but the designer wrote about that strategy of how to use this card, and I thought that was really cool. Here's another way of using your trash with the Time 3 card. Reveal one card from your trash, play it face down in another line. So you could place it there, the opponent knows what it is, and then hopefully you have some other cards that will help flip that back over, triggering its ability. Now let's take a look at the other sort of crazy deck. Luck and Chaos are probably the 2 craziest ones. This card may be played without matching protocols. Now this is the first card that has text that only matters while it's in your hand. Now it's just like playing a face down card, but it has 50% more power because you can play it anywhere, which is pretty interesting. And then just in case if you're curious how crazy this deck is, it's not too bad. Like in each line, flip a covered card. At the start, draw a top card of your opponent's deck, your opponent draws a top card of your deck. So now you're going to be getting cards from each other's decks, which is pretty interesting. And then Chaos 1 is rearrange your protocols, rearrange your opponent's protocols, so swapping things around and stuff. So it does add, obviously, chaos into the game. Here we come to my favorite card in the entire new set. So Mirror 2 basically is like a lane swap card. So you're swapping all cards of one of your stacks with another one of your stacks. So a very interesting way to use this, and the designer actually talked a little bit about this too. Again, this is something where, yes, I see what it does, I can see where it'd be useful, but the designer wrote about ways that this could be like one of the most powerful cards in the game. Where like if you wait till your opponent stops you from compiling by surpassing your value, you basically use Mirror 2 to swap your power out of that conflicted line. This forces your opponent to compile on their turn while reallocating your cards to a line that hopefully gives you the control card, still allows you to compile, and then deletes the stack your opponent was building up. Like, oh my goodness, what a power play. I'm not sure I would have figured out that's the best time to use that card, because that doesn't happen often where like you're about to compile and they go over you and then they're going to compile. But man, because you could do something that amazing makes this card, I think, my favorite in the whole set. Maybe even out of both sets. Now, Courage is an interesting deck. Courage 3 is a great way to counter your opponent's shifting things around, because at the end of your turn, you can shift this card to the line where your opponent has their highest total. And Courage does all sorts of other cool things, like deleting a card of your opponent's in a line where they have a higher value than you do, or at the end of your turn, if your opponent has a higher total value in this line, draw a card. So it's like, it's interesting. Courage fits what this deck does. Here is War 1. After your opponent refreshes, discard any number of cards, then refresh. So this is interesting because not only is refreshing sort of worth like a whole turn, War 1 gives you the ability to cull irrelevant cards in favor of more appropriate ones, because you can discard the ones you want, and then you get to refresh. So really interesting card here. And War does some other interesting things like, hey, after your opponent compiles, your opponent discards their hand. Now Clarity 0, your total value in this line is increased 1 for each card in your hand. So on one turn, this card is like worth nothing, and then next turn you refresh and it rivals the most powerful cards in most protocols, which is a really interesting twist. Now, Clarity does all sorts of interesting other things, like at the start of your turn, reveal your top card from your deck. You may discard the top card of your deck, but then your opponent reveals their hand, and then there's some other cards that do different things too, like reveal your deck. Draw one card with a value of 5 this way, then shuffle your deck. So both people know what's in your hand now, but you got a powerful card. Or Clarity 4, you may shuffle your trash into your deck. So all sorts of ways to know what's going on, but both players know it. I6 is pretty interesting. If you have any cards in your hand, you cannot draw any cards. So I6 is like, the key is planning for your refresh. So you have to make sure you know how you're going to navigate your hand before committing I6 to the field, because if you have any cards left, you cannot draw cards. So it's a pretty interesting twist. Now this one's interesting because it says if you have more than one card in your hand, flip this card. This is piece 6. So interesting thematically, like to enable piece 6, you have to prove that you're committed to peace through disarmament. So that you'll take the chance to disable your offensive capabilities for the ultimate benefit of claiming this moral high ground of 6 points. That's the thematic flair that the designer wrote about this card, which I think is really cool. So if you have more than one card in your hand, flip this card. So that basically you have to play your whole hand out, have nothing left, then play piece 6, then you're probably going to refresh next round, next turn, or compile. But peace does some other really cool things, like, hey, both players discard their hand. So if you have like a weak hand or something that's not good, hey, you can play that and do that. So that's pretty interesting. Now on to Corruption. Corruption 0 at the bottom says, you may play this card in any line on either player's side. So this is the first card in Compile that allows a card to be played on either side of the file. So the interesting thing about Corruption 0 is it's like a steady corruption. So because, at the start, you're going to flip one face-up covered or uncovered card in this stack other than this card. So in other words, you place this card in the other player's side, and it will inevitably find its way into that player's deck, which is bad for you, good for them, but while it's on that side, it's going to be corrupting, other cards that player has played, which is pretty interesting. Now it does help them because they could then play this on you later, but it also dwindles their average per card number. Like this is a 0, so their average card, it's usually it brings that average values down, which makes it harder to win, of course. So Smoke 0 is interesting because you get to play the top card of your deck face down in each line with a face down card. So it's very interesting because, things are going to be flipping back and forth, and you'll find the right time to use this smoke, and you could have you could be placing a bunch of face down cards, which is great because, you're going to be getting more things, but then you could also use abilities to flip those up and trigger their abilities and such. And the last protocol I'm going to kind of highlight here is Fear. This is Fear 2, where you basically return one of your opponent's cards. That's interesting. They played a powerful one, you put it back. Maybe that's going to allow you to now compile. Or maybe Fear 0, during your turn, your opponent's cards do not have middle commands. That could stop something from that's been triggering round after round. Or maybe use Fear 3, which is shifting one of your opponent's covered or uncovered cards in this line. That's very powerful. You can move things around quite a bit. So there's a flair of some of the cards that I thought were the coolest ones in all this new set. As I mentioned in the overview, yes, if you wanted to see how to actually play the game and give a good overview, you'll want to watch my Compile Main 1 review, because this was just looking at the cards. The rule sets are exactly the same. Coming into this, I was super excited. In fact, this got added to the Gen Con list, the preview list, about a day, maybe 2 days before Gen Con started. If this had been on the list of hey, this is going to be a Gen Con in limited quantities, it would have at least been my number 2 most anticipated game. It might not have eked out Gatsby, which is my number 1 because Bruno Cathala is my favorite designer. But it would have been very close. That's how excited I was when I heard this was there. And so different things on Compile. First of all, let me give you my biases and my things coming in here. Yes, I would have been super excited. Why? Is because this made the original Compile made my 2-player game of the year. I was so impressed with this game, the original game. It's just such a quick and easy thing. Now, I'm not going to re-review the game of how it plays and such, because essentially this is the same exact rule set. I mean, the game is the same. So how does this live up to the first one? Well, I'm not going to go over all the mechanisms and such. I've already pretty much in the overview showed you my favorite cards and why I think those are cool. That was kind of like the review in the overview for a change. But I do want to say some things, generally speaking. I generally like standalone expansions because it's one of those ones, like games like this lend itself to that, where, hey, like last year, main 1 sold out in about the fall, and it was not back in stock until like January, February, or March of this year. And so if that's to happen again and someone new comes along, they can say, well, main 1's sold out, main 2's available, I'll get that instead. It's great because it shares the same exact rule set, but if you have both, you can mix them all together and see which ones you want to play with. I think that's a big positive for this. And it does sound like, even though Greater Than Games sort of went out of business, that Synapsis picked this up, and it does look like they are going to continue to support this game, and I'm very happy for that. Designer Michael Yang is, in my opinion, is a genius. The way he has designed this, how clean the game is, and that brings me to this next point, where a lot of times, especially with games like this that have like a second standalone set, especially if it's like little things like this where like each of the protocols has like a different flavor and different thing that they do, it would have been so easy for the designer to come up with a new set with everything being more complex, with adding things. The hardest thing to do is to create more of what you have, but keeping the game true to its nature, which was the reason why this game is so great, is that it's so streamlined. And all the effects are very subtle. But once you get to know the game, the strategies that form around the subtleties of some of these abilities on the cards really open up the game. And in my opinion, that is the hardest thing any game designer can do, is create a game that seems so simple when you play it, but underneath the hood, there are so many things thought about and so many things that were played with to get it to feel like, wow, this is just so easy and great, but it's great, right? And again, a lot of times designers will add things to a new expansion and go, oh, let's do this, let's do that, and it just clogs the game up and it makes it so, well, this isn't kind of like the first one. These are all more complicated, I am very excited that Michael Yang, he designed this second set, and he did it with saying, I'm going to be as creative as I was with the first set. I'm going to do some things that haven't been done before, but I'm never going to go against the heart of the game, which is keeping it streamlined, keeping some of these things subtle, how you use them, and what are the cases that you would use this in, like Mirror 2, as I talked about. So I think this is a knock out of the park home run, because this set is as good as the first set, at least. Only time will tell if I like this set better, but it's just as approachable. It's just as easy to play. It just gives you new and interesting things to think about. So if you're like, hey, I want to get one of these I haven't played before, it doesn't matter. They're both great. You'll like if you like one, you'll like the other. Get which other one you like. Look at my previous review. Look at this one. See the styles. This one had some other things going on, like the luck one and the chaos one. It added a little more different types of things, and some people might like that more than the other one. But regardless, I think this is a knockout of the park. Kept it streamlined. Lots more sets. Lots more little things to do. So Compile 2 for me, main 2, is a hit. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you love. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, being the one table to rule them all with Game Toppers, leg kits, dining covers, premium game mats, and more. In their 5.0 Kickstarter, they found a way to deflate prices to pre-pandemic levels without sacrificing their quality brand, and in some cases by $200, plus dropping the shipping price as much as 50%, saving another $100. Go to GameToppersLLC.com to late pledge now.